The land of witch doctors. We'll be visiting this vast region crossed by big and small waterways beyond the southern borders of the Niger's great river basin. A maze of sandy islands only accessible by water. A peculiarity that has isolated and at the same time preserved many communities from the external world. Alongside archaic working and living conditions, complex spiritual traditions still exist. These are the ancestral practices of animism or fetishism. Religions whose gods are the forces of nature. Nature conditions these people's existence. Extremely poor on the material level, but rich and imaginative on the spiritual one. An example of this is the complex fetishist ritual. This name derives from the first travelers in the 15th century, the Portuguese, who called the native inhabitants statue worshippers, the witch doctors. After having been long misunderstood and despised, their customs and beliefs are finally seen with a different eye today. What is of particular interest is the relation between their practices and the patient. How do they heal him, when they do heal him? Any animist, whether witch doctor or patient, knows how difficult it is to get in touch with the hidden forces ruling reality. Dance is essential in that relationship. But most of all, what is basic is a sacrifice, which by freeing the vital force of the creature killed, transfers it to the patient. Blood offered to the gods cancels the disease. Dance, wearing masks to act as mediator between the human world and the spiritual one, is a kind of prayer, which, combined with the sacrifice, helps to reestablish the lost balance between man and the natural forces. So they believe in Nigerian Mali, in that isolated province of the Empire of the Sands, still deeply rooted in its ancestral traditions. In this episode, we'll describe the fourth leg of our trans-Saharan journey. An environment like the Erg, the great sand expanses which we had just crossed, had seemed very hostile to us, and we couldn't imagine the Sahel of Mali, a ghostly arid tundra, would greatly test our resistance with its persistent sandy wind before allowing us to get beyond its borders. The watchmen of these borders are the last nomads who live and travel between Algeria and Mali. Wind and dust provide an opaque and torrid barrier. We have to cut across it to follow our fourth adventurous itinerary. The previous three legs saw us start from the Mediterranean coast, reaching the Niger by crossing the Sahara along the old Caravaneers route. Now, we are leaving the river behind and heading towards the interior province, the land of the witch doctors. Another group of nomads. They are heading south with their families and their few belongings. They are making for a destination we can't identify at first, but then we realize they are following the water mirage. In this case, however, it's not a mirage, but reality. The water of the artificial wells supplied to the drought-ridden communities of the Empire of the Sands by the international community. Drought is the main cause of depopulation throughout the Nigerian and Malian Sahel. The drill is a gift from Italy. The water which will gush out will make possible the setting up of a new community in the territory. A dance celebrates the miracle of a source of water which seems to spring from nowhere. In this animist country, the miracle is explained as a gift from nature's magic forces. The balance between earth and man has been recomposed here. And in this case, the ancestral tradition and technology seem to have achieved the same goal. The earth returns the water which it had for a while denied to man. The ritual aspect of the dance appears even more clear when the dancers place themselves under the jets of water that spring from the earth and fall from the sky. Animism always requires an explicit physical participation as counterpoint to the mysterious. Water and magic. Here we have another example in the same village. A healer, a witch doctor, treating a mentally sick person with the therapy called Quranic water. Words dissolved in water to become medicine. Precious medicine, since the words are from the sacred book of Islam. In this area, Islamic belief has inserted itself in the animist substratum, and the two currents cohabit. This allows the healers to take actions which ignite emotionally powerful reactions in the sick person. From a widespread belief, such as animism, which regards the balance between man and natural forces as a vital element, springs an awesome, superstitious respect for the environment and for its myriad forms of life. It is with great surprise, then, that we repeatedly encounter on our route elements of contradiction to one of the most deeply rooted beliefs of animist South Saharan Africa. Cutting down trees in the desert for the animists, convinced that powerful spirits live in trees, is a fatal mistake. The offended spirit will take revenge. To cut down a thorny acacia, 100, 1,000 acacias in the arid Sahel, is thus not only an ecological mistake, but also a grave sacrilege. And yet, in the already desolated Sahel, the irresponsible slaughter of trees spreads every day. It's a profitable business, and the money cancels any memory of the traditional fears and rules. That precious timber will be transported by every possible means to villages and cities, and it will be burnt in the homes of the growing population, which has no other energy source. It costs very little to light a cooking stove, even in the poorest homes. The blocks built in the new African cities have electric light and gas, but they are for the wealthy. Wood is for the poor, even if it means betraying beliefs and memories. Modern cities, everywhere in the world, and even more so in African countries, are a violent reality imposed by economic laws upon even the poorest, regardless of the cost. Compared with the energy waste of a modern city, the waste represented by a wood fire may seem insignificant. Unfortunately, the truth is that though this kind of fuel may be poor, in the general economy of the Empire of the Sands, the rare surviving trees represent an extremely precious commodity. To burn in a few years what nature has grown with difficulty over a very long period means creating environmental damage whose consequences will dramatically affect future generations. The modern African city and its negation of a whole cultural heritage rooted in tradition. What remains in those who have become city dwellers of their animist spirituality? Nothing, or almost nothing. Here, where everything is disorderly, where any relationship with the roots of the past seems lost forever, the witch doctor has changed his name. When he operates in the city, he calls himself a traditional medicine healer. In Bamako, capital of Mali, we filmed one who works in the market zone. In his consulting room, furnished with old car seats, we watch the treatment of two patients who say they are suffering from psychic problems and complain they weren't cured at the central hospital. They put their trust in the secret skill of the healer, as displayed in these symbols drawn in front of them. The strange treatment, if it works as a catalyst, will re-establish that general balance which, according to the animist belief, is at the basis of the psychosomatic relation with our body. If the patient regains that balance, then the healer is genuine. If not, it means he's a charlatan. In fact, it is hard for us to understand and even more so to judge. Once again, if anything works, it is the power of autosuggestion. The two patients watch what the healer does with great concentration. Every move is intended to instill deep-seated trust in the sick person. This is the secret of animist medicine. A slow journey along the Niger River takes us far from the city's disorder. Four days' travel. 4 days that intensify the distance between the present and another time. Not necessarily the past, but one without dimension, typical of the archaic world. A Fulbe village gives us a friendly welcome. The sense of hospitality is a strong tradition and expressed through the offer of food cooked for the occasion. Millet bread, which we share with the village elders. The ritual that we were allowed to film is very exceptional. Women who are already mothers prepare a young bride for her first childbirth. They instruct her by miming the process of delivery so that she can learn how her body will react to the event. it is not only a physical preparation. The chanting and dancing are meant to attune the difficult and delicate moment of birth with the hidden forces, the positive ones that must keep the evil ones at bay. The therapeutic art of the animist healers includes a knowledge of the healing properties of thousands of herbs, flowers, roots, and berries. We are not surprised, then, to find a mother entrusting her child to a witch doctor working among the vegetable stalls of a market. In this case, the witch doctor is a woman. She's had leprosy, but nevertheless, the mothers of sick children put their faith only in her. The child will be treated with suitable herbs. These and the mother's strong belief in the healer's magic powers will probably cure him of fever and pain. We are now playing candid camera to film for one whole day the non-stop procession of mothers bringing their children to the woman healer. Her therapies are a mixture of words and gestures, prayers and rituals. But it is the herbs, used either as infusions or as compresses, that will work the cure. The area of the Sahel, watered by the branches of the Niger, has some relatively green areas. And obviously, the animist witch doctors are especially active here, using their knowledge of the healing properties of plants and herbs. But knowing herbs and plants is not enough. For the animists, they possess a spirit, a force, a strength in harmony with the rest of the universe. These forces must be harmonized and harnessed by the person we will continue to call witch doctor. He will be the one to manipulate their healing power. He will use them as allies in this magic performance. By using herbs, a witch doctor healer can cure many diseases. We watched him treating a patient suffering from a serious skin disease. In the last few years, the proven effectiveness of herbal medicine has induced many practitioners of conventional Western therapies to study the witch doctor's methods. The attitude towards traditional medicine has radically changed. This is the so-called witch doctor's tree in Bandiagara. Not far from this animist sacred place, a hospital village is being built in the style of a local village. The financing comes from the European cooperation scheme with largely an Italian contribution. Here, African healers and Western doctors will work together. Different therapies will be used according to the cases concerned. Witch doctor will not have negative connotations here, but quite the opposite. In the hospital, there will be Italian doctors, Italian medicines, Italian equipment. But if the complex is designed like an African village, it is not only for aesthetic reasons. It's to make the patients feel at home. For here, the patient's state of mind is given as much importance as medicine. It has, at long last, been understood that the African patient has to be treated mainly through his soul, his spirit. We return to Bamako, the great capital of this region. A city in which uncertainty about the present and fear of the future are the main causes of the most widespread disease in Africa today: mental illness. But there is also another cause, perhaps. The Muslim faith, as this mosque reminds us, has been rooted in Sub-Saharan Africa for more than 1,000 years. But in the people's hearts, the memory of the animist beliefs is still very alive, and Islam has tried in vain to suppress it. Especially in the big cities and in the villages which are changing so fast. The negation that Islam is trying to inflict on the animist African soul creates conflict in a population already spiritually and materially tried. And here we see the traditional medicine in action. It treats by evoking in the patient what the surrounding world makes him forget, by reconnecting him to his firm animist belief. We are in a care center for the mentally ill near Bamako. The approach to the illness is based here on the experience this family of healers has handed on from father to son in the field of individual and group therapy. The older healer responsible for this center told us, "I take care of my brothers whose mind is disturbed. I know the words, acts, and sacrifices needed to cancel the effects of individual unbalance, which is merely the reflection of social disharmony. My poor brothers, my poor sisters, trust me, and this will heal them." There is an area in the southern Sahara where neither Islam nor the Europeans, with their desecrating urban jungles, have succeeded in upsetting the ancient, very precious equilibrium between man and the natural environment. We come to this region, defended by torrid aridity and rocky harshness. We are entering the Dogon country. Locked in its valleys, we see villages whose daily life, though difficult and very poor, is basically serene. Serene because the living people are protected by their ancestors, by those whose tombs almost form a second village, which dominates that of the living from the top of overhanging rocky walls where the dead keep a vigilant eye on their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. An orthopedic healer works here who is famous throughout the south of the Empire of the Sands. Even Western doctors come here to see him at work, and one of them is Dr. Coppo, the Italian doctor who took us here. A boy with a fractured arm has been brought here by his family. They trust the doctor and know that he will heal him. And the child knows that one of these days, as soon as he is cured, he will be able to take part in a group ceremony like this. The ritual by which the village beseeches the supernatural forces for rain after a long, far too long drought. The land of the Dogon, the most magic of the provinces of the Empire of the Sands. The creative imagination of its people, as expressed in these masks, and their poetic sense, derive from the complex animist cosmogony, explaining their conception of the world. Everything is posed in a very delicate balance between man and the natural forces, those of sun, wind, water, which these masks represent. Our fourth trans-Saharan itinerary has also come to an end. Our adventure through the Empire of the Sands, beyond the Urg, the Sahel, the Niger, and the Dogon country, reaches the Atlantic shores of Saharan Africa, its final destination.
I'm Bert Wolf, and that's Food for Thought.
Food for Thought's made possible by Near East, rice, couscous, and pasta.